Violence is in all forms of media, but it doesn't just stop at the media. We are born into a world with violence, and humankind is consistently making more and more ways to convey that violence. During this presentation, I want to focus on how violence is seen in books. Before I came into this assignment, I had the assumption that there were no limitations on books. There were no age restriction on novels besides for the obvious sexual fantasy novels. Anyone could go up and buy whatever they wanted. It may have been frowned upon to see a 10-year-old reading Game of Thrones, but there was no real measures to stop that, so I decided to research it further. Unlike video games, movies and music and other forms of entertainment, books don't come with a strict rating system. There are 4 classifications for literature in Australia: unrestricted, unrestricted as mature level, which is not recommended for persons under 15, restricted category 1, not available for persons under 18, and restricted category 2, not available for persons under 18, contains more explicit images than what is permissible under category 1. However, most of these restrictions are used for nude magazines, etc. A book is required to be classified if its content has the possibility to offend someone, which, let's be honest, that's most books. However, most of those books just get a mature rating, which doesn't stop anyone from purchasing them. Now, how do books differ from video games and movies? One could make the argument that games and movies have a lot more visual elements that are forced upon the viewer, and in books it's limited to what they can imagine. But comic books fall into that same rating category as above, and have violent imagery in them also. I'm not sure about you, but if I was to read a violent scene in a book, it would be a lot worse than seeing it on screen, mainly for the limitations that film and games actually have. The ratings and signage. In films and games, it's pretty clear what the rating system is for it, but until this assignment, I'd never even seen one for a book. And then I went and checked one of my comic books that I have in my drawers, and found a little tiny black box with a small writing just saying parental advisory is recommended, which, if I didn't know it was there, I wouldn't have even seen it. In my opinion, books should be treated the same way as film and games are. Maybe not as strongly, but they should have the same rating system with the G and the PG, etc. And now I'm going to show you a short animation of some Grisham versions of fairy tales, just to show how different violent literature can be from its film counterpart. Here's a little story about a man telling stories to his grandchildren. Okay, little Timmy, it's time to go to bed.
But I'm not sleepy yet, Grandpa. Can you please tell me this story?
That's not a story. I'll tell you a real story.
Oh boy, Grandpa, your stories are the best.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful mermaid and a dashingly handsome prince. He was out at sea one day and fell off his boat, almost drowning. The mermaid saved him, but she fell in love, so she went to a sea witch to get the most beautiful pair of legs known to man. But as she left, the sea witch said there was a catch. Your voice will forever be silenced, and every step you take on land will make you bleed, as if razor blades were cutting your feet. As she stepped up onto the beach, her feet began to bleed, and worst ever was the sand that got between the bruises. Her beautiful mermaid voice could not be heard. She went up to the prince, but he could not work out what was happening, as she could not speak. A few weeks later, the prince was engaged to another woman, and the mermaid went back to the ocean and threw herself in. Unfortunately, she'd forgotten she'd given up all ability to swim and drowned. Good night, son.
Good night, Grandpa.
Every day that week, Grandpa returned to tell him another tale, and the child kept getting more and more scared. His parents were getting concerned. They couldn't work out why little Timmy was not sleeping. Little did they know that Grandpa had only just begun. And so the wicked queen was punished for trying to kill Snow White. And as her punishment, she was made to dance among the town wearing a pair of hot iron shoes until she fell over dead. The Sleeping Beauty woke up to the nudging of her newborn twins. The monarch had impregnated her while she slept. He brought her back to the palace, triumphantly returning, but she forgot to mention he was married. The wife tried to kill the Sleeping Beauty, but was thwarted by the king. In the end, the Sleeping Beauty married the prince, who violated her while she slept. Just goes to show you, you can find love wherever you may need, I think. Tonight, Timothy, is my favorite story of them all, Cinderella.
Oh wait, I know this one. This when the stepsisters cut off their toes to try and impress the prince.
Timothy, that is true, but that's what the mainstream media wants you to think. What really happened is Cinderella killed her original stepmother at getting her father to marry the housekeeper, but what she didn't realize is that the housekeeper would be bringing her multiple daughters and never-ending chore list. Cinderella got what was coming to her. At least we know why Timmy isn't sleeping. I told you your father wasn't ready for this. I hope this little story time has taught you something. Some things aren't as bad as they seem, and some things are much, much worse.